Happy Monday, and welcome back to the Lorden Arts channel. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here today. Case Cracked is the show where we look into a mystery, and what are the critical pieces that help solve that mystery? Today's episode is called Finding Kiely. When we're young, many of us can't wait to make our own decisions away from our parents' watchful eyes. During our teenage years, we finally get a taste of that freedom, and by the time we graduate high school, it's time to start experiencing our future instead of just imagining it. Kiely Rodni was on that same path. On August 5th, 2022, 16-year-old Kiely was heading to an end of the summer party in Tahoe National Park in California. The Prosser family campground, known as the Sanctuary, sits just outside of Truckee, California, on the shore of the Prosser Lake Reservoir. She had graduated early from Forest Charter School and was eager to close out her summer and start her musical studies at Sierra College. She headed to the party at about 5:30 p.m. that evening. What initially was a gathering of about 100 people soon grew to 300. The party was packed and continued late into the night. As the night wore on, people older than the original crowd of largely high school students began to wander in and sell drugs, including psychedelic mushrooms and cocaine. After drinking with her friends at 11:30 p.m., Kiely texted her mother to say that she would be leaving the party and was coming straight home, a trip that should have taken about 45 minutes. Her mother, Lindsay, told her to be safe and that she loved her. Kiely said, "Okay, Mom, I love you too." Reassured that her daughter was fine, Lindsay went to sleep. A bit later, around 12:30 a.m., Kiely spoke with her friend Samantha Smith. Their conversation was the same. Kiely said she was leaving the party, and Samantha told her that she loved her, good night, get home safe. When Kiely's mother, Lindsay, woke up at 8 a.m. the next morning, Kiely wasn't home. Confused, she checked the location of Kiely's cell phone. At 12:30 a.m., it showed her last location was the Sanctuary, but when she tried calling Kiely's phone, it was either turned off or somehow disabled. Lindsay then called Kiely's best friend. She had left the party before Kiely and had made plans to meet Kiely the next morning at 9 a.m. at Starbucks to go on a camping trip. At 9, Lindsay and Kiely's friend were at Starbucks, thinking that Kiely would arrive soon. When she didn't show up, friends went to check the campgrounds to look for her. No trace of her was found or her 2013 silver Honda CR-V SUV. Now panicked, Lindsay called the police and reported her daughter missing. The next day, the Placer County Sheriff's Office had established a tip line that could be called to offer information. They started their search using helicopters and ground crews who were looking for her SUV. As investigators searched, Lindsay made a heartfelt plea to the public, asking for help in bringing Kiely home. "Kiely, we love you. If you see this, please come home." Tips began to pour in from the public, but as police questioned people who had attended the party, most wouldn't talk to them. Quote, "A lot of people from the party may be in college or maybe just about to start college, and they're afraid they'll ruin their future if they say something," Placer County Sheriff's Office Public Information Officer Angela Masalam told the New York Post. Those that did speak to police stated that Kiely was inebriated that night. Most said she was staying the night at the party. Since no sign of Kiely had been found, the sheriff's office then decided to look at other possible avenues. Instead of asking themselves if Kiely was really missing, they asked themselves, what if she had been abducted? A sweep of local registered sex offenders was conducted. Footage of the 16-year-old was found that showed her at a convenience store in Truckee at about 6 p.m. the night of the party. In the footage, she wore a black bodysuit with green Dickies pants and black Vans. There were reports that she was wearing one of two sweatshirts. It was either a sweatshirt that read "Odd Future" or a borrowed Lana Del Rey sweatshirt that quoted lyrics from one of her songs. "You don't want to be forgotten, you just want to disappear." No new leads came from the footage, but it allowed investigators to flesh out her timeline of events and gave the public a good view of what she was wearing. By August 10th, searches had been conducted on the ground, and in ponds, creeks, and lakes near her last cell phone signal. Her search had grown to include volunteers, neighboring counties' police officers, and the FBI. They used boats, tracking dogs, helicopters, and social media. All combined, these agencies put in nearly 20,000 hours of search time. A reward for information regarding her whereabouts had climbed from $50,000 to $75,000, and investigators had received almost 2,000 tips from the public, none of them leading to Kiely. On the 15th, the sheriff's office announced that it would be scaling back its search. Our biggest problem is, where do we go and how do we keep sustaining this? Captain Sam Brown of the Nevada County Sheriff's Office said. We're going to have to switch modes and kind of focus on the investigative end. We still want all eyes and ears out there. The eyes and ears they chose to put out were the people from Adventures with Purpose, or AWP. This Oregon-based dive crew volunteers their time searching bodies of water for missing people. Their services are free, and their searches are uploaded to YouTube. They work to help bring closure to the families of missing people. Many of their cases involve when a car is also missing, and they have an amazing track record with over 20 discoveries to date. On the 15th, the Placer County Sheriff's Office asked AWP to search nearby waterways for Kiely, while they concentrated more on the investigative aspect of her disappearance. Human traffickers work quickly, and if Kiely had been abducted by them, law enforcement had to move fast. By the 21st, the dive team from AWP made it to Truckee and connected with law enforcement. The 6-person team was asked to search the bodies of water around Truckee, but were told not to bother with Prosser Lake Reservoir, the lake at which the party took place. Quote, "Police told us that they did a rigorous search of this body of water," said diver Josh Cantu. "They gave us a grid map and made us confident we didn't need to search there." Nearly all of the bodies around Truckee were checked, but turned up nothing. That was when AWP decided to double-check the reservoir itself. Over the next 4 hours, 6 divers in inflatable rafts used sonar to image the lake, while a hot air balloon was used from above. Although reported estimates vary, about 60 feet offshore from the sanctuary, in about 14 feet of water, sat an object, bigger than everything else in the lake, that was showing up clearly on AWP's sonar. Divers made their way to the object, and within minutes found that it was a car, a silver Honda CR-V, and it was sitting upside down. When the license plate was checked, it showed that it was indeed Kiely's car. When the diver, Nick Rinn, checked the car itself, he found human remains. He quickly exited the water. They called the police and the family with the heartbreaking news of the discovery. During previous police searches, water levels at the lake had been higher than when AWP did their scan. It's also believed that air trapped inside the car allowed it to float further than police estimated before it sank. By 7:30 p.m. that night, Kiely's car was being pulled from the lake and placed on a flatbed truck to be towed away. An autopsy would later confirm that the body found with the car was indeed Kiely Rodni. The Rodni family has been devastated by their daughter's death and stated that she will be missed by everyone who knew her. They also ask that people try not to mourn Kiely's loss, but celebrate her life. Her boyfriend, Jagger Westfall, said in an Instagram post, "You were my entire world, and you always will be. I missed you even when I was holding you in my arms. I could never get enough of you." Kiely's family released a statement saying, quote, "We are eternally grateful for the love and support you have shown us in the last couple of weeks. We've weathered a storm of unfathomable force, and it is purely thanks to the army of warriors, matriarchs, healers, and helpers holding us up that we continue to stand today." They clearly see that it took a whole team of multiple law enforcement departments, volunteers, the public, and a YouTube channel to make this a case cracked. I would like to thank the New York Post, NBC News, SACB.com, USAToday.com, MyNews4.com, Fox40.com, Yahoo News, and People.com. Of course, the biggest thank you goes to Christy Arnhart for researching and writing up today's case, and here she is now to discuss it with us. Before we start the conversation, I just want to say, Christy, thank you so much for fast tracking this story.
Oh, yes.
I know it's one that kind of grabbed the public's attention in a very significant way,
Hmm.
but this other aspect of having another YouTuber that helped contribute to this in such a significant way, I kind of wanted to follow the mysterious WV story with this one. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for doing that. And I just wanted to point out right from the start, just having a missing persons case of this nature be solved this quickly is amazing in itself. Like,
It is.
we know that a lot of them get solved within the first few days, and some of them solve themselves, but it's the ones that get outside of that 2 or 3 week range where we start knowing, okay, something else is at play. And unfortunately, we're looking at a tragic situation with the outcome here,
Hmm.
but it puts it in that category of these are cases that are typically not very easy to solve. And we've got this amazing thing with Adventures with Purpose, where it's kind of a specific type of missing persons case that they go for.
Hmm.
But for that one, which there's plenty of, unfortunately, like we pretty frequently have a story of the person goes missing, their car goes missing. Sometimes we find the location of the car and then we don't find the person, but in many cases we don't find the car or the person. And in looking at these cases kind of over the years, water sources, significant part of that problem. Knowing that we've got this dive team at AWP that's just going around the country from location to location to help on that is amazing.
It is. It's incredible. And it's free of charge to the people that they help too. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, it's so awesome that they're doing that work. But it does also raise a question in terms of, like, why isn't law enforcement as successful? Like, we've got these guys that are it's a YouTube crew that they've got a couple years under their belt now. They've developed some pretty strong methods. Why How does law enforcement miss this? And I do know that you mentioned in the script that there was a difference in the water. From what I
hmm
understand, I think they thought it was about a 3 foot difference. So we're talking about her car being in 17 feet of water as opposed to 14 feet when it's found by
hmm
AWP. Do you have any thoughts on why law enforcement struggles on this?
well, I know that a lot of sheriff's offices don't have the equipment that they need to do these kind of searches.
Yeah.
And really, some of that should be basic for everybody. For nearly every person, every police department, there's a body of water somewhere they're going to have to search. They should have this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think what helped AWP over police is that they do this all the time. They know how to manipulate their equipment, they know exactly what to look for, and they've got their process down.
Yeah. And obviously, however they got started, they're funded well enough to have the right equipment to do this. It would just be nice if, because I know there's different companies that kind of train law enforcement on different things.
Hmm.
It would be great if one of these companies would kind of collaborate with AWP and just say, can you guys tell us like a basic kit or something? Like, what's the minimum kit that we can have so that we can implement that in places that maybe don't have a lot of money? And then, like, what's the next
Hmm.
level? What's like because we know that, yeah, police departments in this country, they're dealing with all kinds of different scenarios and very different budgets. So it's interesting to me to just have this resource out there that these guys are showing by their successes. They're coming in and solving cases sometimes decades after the fact. And all
Oh,
of a sudden
yes.
they just go in and I
It's like magic.
I know, but it's also it's like I know they're hearing the same thing time and time again. Well, we've already looked in that source. We've already, and that's why even in this case they were like, okay, we know you told us you already checked it, but let us recheck it, and boom, 4 hours later they have it. Um, it's really amazing to me. My mind is always, how do we take that information and push it forward and help others be more successful? Because I love AWP. I want them to keep going and doing what they're doing. But I'd
Hmm.
also like to hear that law enforcement is getting sharper and kind of better equipped for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, when it comes to those particular cases, missing car, body of water possibly involved, I don't know. I feel like things come up short sometimes.
Well, they do, and cases like that. I mean, it's such a good possibility that they're both right there together. They do. They need something across the board that they can all start out with here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, what are some other lessons that you kind of saw in this case while you were putting it all together? What are some things that stuck out to you about this?
Well, I guess what struck me, and I don't know if this was the case or not,
Hmm.
but I know growing up with my parents, they were very honest with me. They told me, we realize at a young age you're going to drink, and that's fine. If you do, be safe. Don't drive or ride with people who've been drinking. Call us. We'll come get you. No judgments. And that's the way it was.
Yeah,
You know, it's best be realistic, I guess. Be so realistic with the kids. Having that realism in mind might have stopped her from driving herself. I don't
I
know.
I think there's a couple things at play here. You've got someone that is extremely bright. You know, she's
Yes.
finishing school early, um, and maybe learning to lean on herself and be a little more independent than some of her peers.
Hmm.
And I remember kind of being that age, and I had some friends that were a little older, and it was just kind of a thing that I knew I was a little bit different, and I was able to hang out with people that were a little older than my friends would be able to hang out with.
Hmm.
And not, I mean, there's kind of good and bad versions of that. You know, like there's,
Yeah.
oh, you're hanging out with these older people and they're buying you booze or they're buying you drugs or things like that. But
Yeah.
there's kind of different levels to that. Um, I feel like she probably was such a go-getter that maybe that gave her a little overconfidence. And at 16 years old, you know, you're going to have those situations, but hopefully you're going to learn those lessons and then adjust for it. Go like, oh, wow. Like, you know, I learned my lesson on that one. I can't push that hard in that direction for that particular thing. Unfortunately, this is one of those cases that really just shatters my heart because you have someone that it should have been a lesson. And unfortunately, their life ends and they don't get another opportunity. They don't get another chance to bounce back from it, to learn from it
Yeah.
and to move forward. So,
And I think that we can all remember people from our past who have been in that situation.
oh, yeah.
I had one, real close friend of mine. He graduated high school, and at the end of the summer, at an end of the summer party, I don't even know if he had been drinking, but he struck a diesel head on the
Yeah.
way home.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's sad that we don't all make it through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think possibly if there is some other lesson in this, it's to like use the buddy system if you're going to something like
Mhm.
this. You know, go with one of your friends, maybe drive together because I think just having that other perspective, someone else that's kind of like, hey, are you okay to drive? I mean, and then of course, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. Toxicology results, I'm sure, are still pending. They're
Hmm.
probably not going to come back for several weeks. We don't know if there's any other factors involved in this. Um, but I don't know that any of that is really that important at this point. You've got a family that's grieving, but thankfully they know what happened. They have their memorial service that they can have. They have
Hmm.
a place that they can go to remember her life and honor her in that way, where a lot of these families don't. So that's
Yeah,
one.
and well, as sad as it is, we have to also remember there's always at least one fantastic thing that comes out of these situations. She may save how many lives in the future
Yeah.
just for people knowing her story.
And this story is known by a lot of people. So yeah,
Hmm.
hopefully that's going to encourage families to have these important conversations kind of like you were talking about um, a minute ago. So, well, thank you so much, Christy. We really appreciate you. And I've got some other people to thank right now. Thank you, PayPal supporters Sigrid E. O'Hearn, Jennifer Dixon, and Angela Welch Sola. For over 6 years, we've always run limited commercial ads here on YouTube, and we can't do that without support. If you'd like to help the channel keep going and keep growing, please visit lordandarts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or even just buy us a coffee, like Axel Foley recently did. We know that learning about the mechanisms that help support and find justice in these cases is important to understand the many unsolved cases we also cover, and we really appreciate your support in allowing us to continue doing that. Remember, you can get another Lord and Art story every week on the Seriously Mysterious podcast. A new episode is coming tomorrow, and every Tuesday after that, visit seriouslymysterious.com and subscribe on your favorite podcatchers. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon below if you want to catch one of our weekly Secret Studio live shows. And of course, I'll be back with a new unsolved mystery for you on Friday, right here on the Lord and Arts channel.